pleasure of talking with Lea Thomas over Zoom video. Lea was born and raised in Maui, which sounds like it'd be amazing. And from what she told us, it was. She currently lives in New York, which was a huge culture shock to her. And she talks to us a little bit about that. But born and raised in Maui, she got into piano at a very early age, started playing piano around 4 or 5 years old, started writing her own songs on piano at around 8 or 9. In middle school, she took up the bassoon, which is interesting. If you don't know what that looks like, it's like a 5-foot clarinet. So if you can imagine this little 6th grader playing a bassoon, but she did do that all through middle school. She got a guitar around that same age, and her dad was a guitar player, so he was really excited to have his daughter want to play guitar. So he took her down to the music shop, got her an electric guitar, taught her some chords, and from there on, Lea just started to teach herself how to play. She had a neighbor growing up that was moving off the island, and he was an engineer producer type, and he had all this equipment, and he ended up selling it to her for a very good deal. So her brother, who was 5 years older than her, living in New York, his room wasn't being used at the time, so she turned his room into her own recording studio. So Lea talks to us about recording a bunch throughout high school, ended up moving to New York, kind of following her big brother, and attending audio engineering school there. She talked to us about her first record she put out, being able to play shows not only in New York, but she was able to travel to Japan and kind of build a fan base there because she had family in Japan. She talked to us about where she was when the pandemic hit, actually on her way to tour Japan, but she turned around in Maui and came back to New York, and all about her brand new record, Mirrors to the Sun. You can watch her interview with Lea on our Facebook page and YouTube channel at Bringing It Backwards. We'd love it if you subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Bringing Back Pod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Lea Thomas. This podcast is all about you and your journey in music.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, my name's Adam, by the way. We always start off, where were you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in Hawaii in a
Wow.
very small town on the north shore of Maui. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have been able to grow up there. It was a really special place.
That's incredible. What was it like growing up there? I mean, a lot of people travel there, obviously, for vacations.
Yeah, almost too many right now, actually. They're kind of experiencing a resource overwhelm. The infrastructure is not built for that. But that's another conversation.
Oh, really? Just people are just heading there because they're so sick of being inside?
I think so. I'm sure there's just, and I think foreign travel is also a little bit difficult still now. And Hawaii is like the farthest from, the states you can get while still being in this country, it feels sometimes. And
Sure.
yeah, it's kind of intense. Actually, the airports are like totally overwhelmed. The traffic is insane. I've just been hearing from a lot of friends, like, please don't visit Maui right now. It's really, it's intense. They're having like water shortage issues, which
Yikes.
typically tends to affect the locals before it affects the tourism area. So it's kind of a complicated issue, but I don't need to dive right into that.
Of course, but yeah, that's just fascinating that people are all headed out that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good place to go. It's beautiful. It's just limited in what it can provide.
Very true. Well, what was it like growing up there?
I mean, really beautiful, just surrounded by nature in any direction you look. I just feel super lucky. It was also I was born in 1990, so I really grew up in like a lot of my childhood was like pre-internet or like dial-up internet, and it was like it just kind of allowed you to really have this like the kind of utopic, idyllic, I think, childhood where you're really connected and immersed in your surroundings and like not really worried about what else is going on out in the rest of the world, frankly. I mean, you're on an island in the middle of the ocean, so it was really like it was just very focused on being present in nature and just experiencing the world that was immediately around me, which I think is a really lucky thing. It's not everybody gets to have that opportunity. I think we should, I've been living in New York City for the last 13 years, and I have since moving here recognized how special that is to be able to have that relationship with the natural world
Uh-huh.
as a really young person, and like how much it can really affect your emotional state and your mental state. And yeah, I wish and I hope for more of that connection to be available for young people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that must have been quite a culture shock, I would imagine, going from Maui to New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the most culture shock you can have, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get into music?
So I grew up my parents are very artistic, in their own ways. My dad, had a lot of different creative practices, and he played guitar since he was a kid. So I kind of just grew up with him, playing guitar around the house and stuff. And, I started on piano when I was like 4 or 5, just taking piano lessons and easing into it, getting familiar with music theory and stuff. And I kept that up for years, kind of on and off. And that was the first instrument I was, writing my own songs on, and kind of getting the feel for songwriting. Maybe when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that, I started doing my own things.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe around 13 or so, I started to kind of recognize rock and roll as a more powerful influence in my life.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, Dad, maybe I should get a guitar now.
Get an electric guitar.
Which he gladly, obviously, obliged. We immediately went to the local music store, and he's like, pick out, a thing. And he was really excited. It's, yeah.
Was he able to teach you some chords and kind of get you
He
started?
kind of got me started. And then obviously, my rebellious teenage self was like, I don't need any more lessons,
Of course not.
I'm just gonna like read the magazines and like, look up
The
tabs
tab.
or
Yeah.
whatever and like teach myself, Dad, But no, I definitely got like a core of just, yeah, like how scales are formed and that kind of a thing, music theory, from him and from music classes in school and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. You said you were writing songs pretty early on. I mean, 8, 9 years old, and that was on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start like writing full songs and showing them to people?
Probably at the same exact time I would write
Oh,
them.
really? Always a performer?
I was not shy about it. No.
Okay.
I remember like the very first time we had a piano recital at my like all of the students my piano teacher had, and I had a friend of mine, one of my best friends, in first grade, and we are like both going to do the recital, and she was not into it. She's much more like private person. She's like, I do not want to do this thing. And I was just like, I'm ready, like let's do this. And I just remember like playing whatever the little do 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 like song was, and just being so excited. Like this totally just like really simple out of the box kind of looking at the notes on the paper and just being like, I'm killing it right now. This is
That's awesome. Did you start in or play in any bands growing up, or were you in the school orchestra or anything like that?
I was in the school band in middle school. I was totally a band kid.
Okay.
I played
What'd you play?
I played the bassoon. Which is mostly, I think, I don't know, I feel like everyone wanted to play flute or clarinet. There was like 20 flute and clarinet players, and I thought like, oh, no one else is playing the bassoon. That'd be kind of fun to be like the bassoon player. And I ended up being pretty good at it, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's just because nobody ever wanted to play the bassoon in the band, but I was a 6th grader in the 8th grade band kind of thing, and my band teacher's like, you could have a career in being a bassoon player. I was like, maybe not though. Like maybe I want to just play guitar.
The bassoon is like a hybrid of a clarinet kind of saxophone looking thing, right? Where it has like the mouthpiece that kind of comes off of the.
It's like a 5-foot clarinet, like a giant oboe type of instrument. Okay. Yeah, it's enormous.
I
in a
can't
really
imagine seeing a
cool.
little a little sixth grader.
I know.
Yeah, you have to stand on a stool or something to get to the mouthpiece.
It was an underappreciated instrument, I think. It is pretty rad. It's a rad instrument, just not like rock and roll. You can't sing and play bassoon at the same time, you know.
Sure.
That was my main goal.
Okay. How long did you play bassoon? Through high school?
No, just in middle school, just a couple of years. Yeah, I quickly shifted into the guitar zone.
Okay. And then did you do singer-songwriter stuff or start join a band, played a rock band?
Yeah, there were not a lot of people on the island. It's a small place, you know, to grow up. I think there's only like maybe 130,000 people, like permanent
Okay.
residents when I was growing up there. So really small town vibes, and the the dominant music culture there is kind of more centered around like reggae or like roots and kind of island
Sure.
ukulele,
Mm-hmm.
you know, native Hawaiian music, which just wasn't really the genres that I was really drawn to. And I had a hard time finding people in my high school that I really connected with musically. I mean, I had a few friends that would come over and jam, but we never had like a actual kind of band thing that was steady.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, the real turning point was when a family friend of ours, he was kind of a home recordist and worked doing that kind of professionally as well. But he moved off the island and sold us his rig, his like, you know, Mac tower, and his
Mm-hmm.
that came with like Logic and a few mics and really simple setup. But he sold it to us for a really like generous price, and which I'm also just like in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that was so awesome that my parents really, you know, went that extra mile and helped me get set up. But
I was gonna
I
say that's pretty
yeah.
impressive that they are that big of a,
Yeah, they were
supporter.
super supportive, and it just completely opened the doors to me of like, oh, okay, like if I don't have a band right now and I have all these ideas in my head, like there's no better way for me to get comfortable, you know, expanding my songwriting concepts and like getting a feel for arrangements and how to produce for a bigger project than by recording myself just over and over and over again. So I would just sit in my bedroom. Actually, it was my brother went to college 5 years before. And so I like took over his old bedroom and turned it into my recording
Or
studio.
studio.
I'm like in his little closet, and I turned the closet into a sound booth. And, you know, I would just be in there for like, from the moment I got back from school till like 2 a.m. every night.
Wow.
Um, and just got obsessed. I got totally obsessed with it, and it opened my eyes to, you know, how the records that I loved were like making these sounds and getting to explore with you know, effects and just like harmonies, like harmonizing my vocals and layering instruments and how to arrange for different parts and stuff. And yeah, that was my high school band was myself.
Yourself. I mean, that's impressive to be able to take on something like that instead of just sitting around and trying to play coffee shops and do that kind of route. You went into recording, which is a whole other beast in itself.
Yeah, I think I mean, I did some of the coffee shop kind of stuff as well, but there's just something so magical about the world that you can create, you know, in the world of a record and putting
Mm-hmm.
the sound down. Um so I was really drawn to that, like being able to create like a whole space that I could like live in and be immersed in, and it just becomes very addictive.
Mm-hmm. Did you ended up going to school for recording or
I
engineering at
did.
all? Okay.
I did actually, yeah. I that was the first thing I did when I moved to New York. My brother actually moved here. He he's 5 years older than me, as I mentioned, and he went
Mm-hmm.
to college in New York, and so I kind of visited every summer. I'd save up my money and like, you know, go visit Big Brother in the big city. And
That's cool.
I knew really since I started playing guitar, because like all of my favorite musicians were coming out of New York, and just the lore of the music culture around
Mm-hmm.
the city, I was totally focused on moving here. So by the time it came around that I graduated from high school, I was like, well, I know I want to move to New York. It'd be nice to have something to do and kind of focus on and get myself grounded when I get there. So I found an audio engineering program that was like a year-long trade school, and signed up, and yeah, it was nice. I actually
Wow.
met my still bandmate and partner, and he engineers and mixes all my records and stuff like that. We met at the school many years ago.
Wow.
It was
That's
meant to be.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So while you're going to that school, were you playing in New York? Like, how did you start getting, like, how'd you cut your teeth in New York as far as being an artist?
I mean, yeah, just kind of meeting people. I don't know that I met too many people that I still am kind of within the same communities with, from that school, but it, meeting John, we still play together. He's like my biggest supporter, and um, yeah, we just keep meeting people and making friends, and that's really what keeps us going in the city. Is the people that are around us and doing their own things and like trying to carve their own way. Um, and it keeps us inspired and keeps us going.
Mm-hmm. And you put out a record in what, 2017? Was that your first record?
Yeah, my first solo record. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were you in a band prior to being a solo artist, or was it always solo?
I was, but it was like it was an experiment, and I don't know that
Okay.
that exists on the internet anymore.
Okay. So like the first real like serious attempt at this was as a
Yeah,
solo artist. Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, talk to me about that record. Was it, how was it putting out an album under your name? And did you push it? Did you tour it? Like,
Yeah, that record was kind of half of it was actually recorded with my previous band, and then the other half was recorded as an experiment that I wanted to make into an EP. And then my label and I were just talking about it, and my label at the time, and they were like, we should just combine them. It's just going to be an eclectic, interesting record, and they all feel like you because you wrote all the songs, and so I leaned into that, and we released it as a full length. So it's kind of an amalgamation of like several years of my life of songwriting and experimenting a little bit. What did we do? I think we might have gone to Japan on that record.
oh, wow.
My folks moved to Japan a few years ago. I'm half Japanese, so I have community and family out there. So it's been really fun to be able to kind of do, local shows on the East Coast, and then also be able to like take the music over there. And I can't bring my band over. It's just a little too complicated at the moment. So John and I tend to like do slightly different performances of the songs. Maybe sometimes it's more of like a folky rendition or more ambient kind of exploration of like a long form version of the different songs. So it's a cool experiment. It never gets old. We always try something different when we're traveling like that.
That's cool. When you played Japan, like especially for the first time, how is that compared to, I mean, performing in Hawaii versus New York?
I can't tell if it's because of the community that we have out there that is, tends to be kind of like smaller spaces. They're more intimate shows, but I think it's also a cultural thing where maybe New York is just so saturated with music, and like a lot of the venues are in, kind of like venues, or like there's the bar over there and this is the stage, and there's kind of like a whole culture around the like nightlife scene. Whereas in Japan, the shows that we tend to play are more kind of like self-created spaces, like, or community design spaces. So it's not like a traditional kind of venue, where there's like a bar and stuff. Like someone might set up like a organic drinks and whatever, and like everyone's very attentive, and people come together to like put on the shows. And we've played some really wonderful spaces, like like an outdoor festival thing, and it's just really like, I don't know how to describe, just has a really sweet energy. People are really there to like take it in and to be a part of an experience. And I think there is definitely like a cultural aspect to that. But I think also maybe we're lucky because the people that we're connected with out there are very like of the, of the earth.
Sure, it's a community or kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And then John also plays free jazz, and so we kind of we're starting to find more community around that in like Tokyo and stuff like that, which is much more like New York. You're gonna play at a venue and stuff like that. But it's a little tricky with the venues out there. They're very different. The way they're structured is very different. You often kind of pay in advance for like a larger venue. You have to pay in advance to book the show, and then you make your money back. So as a touring artist, it's quite challenging to organize something if you're still kind of like developing as an
I can imagine, because you're basically renting out the venue, so to speak, for that night, and you try to make your money back on ticket sales.
Yeah, it's a totally different format. And not all of them are like that. And, we tend to find like smaller, more intimate places, maybe hold like 50 people or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of hard to make the jump. But we've been really happy. I mean, some of my favorite shows that we've ever played have been in these kinds of community design spaces. And we played a temple a few years ago.
Wow.
That was just so like, you can't get that kind of a ambiance,
Sure,
playing in a regular venue. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting because they kind of do that in LA. I'm from Southern California. I don't know if they still do this, but when I was growing up there, you had to basically sell a certain amount of tickets in advance. If you wanted to play for, like the Whiskey, for example, they would hand you like 100 tickets. And if you didn't come back to the door that night with $1,000, you aren't playing, basically. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you had to sell a certain amount of tickets to even get your band on the stage. So it's kind of similar in the sense that, but this way you're basically taking more of a risk because you have to pay up front and hope you get the money back. It's not you sell it out in advance and then provide the money.
Right. While trying to like promote in a different country.
Right. Which is, I'm sure, hard to do in itself.
It's hard to do.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing you were able to, even get some shows and play there. It sounds like you've played some pretty amazing places.
Yeah. I feel very lucky. It's just fun. I mean, we just have a lot of good friends and people who are really willing to help out, support. So to organize it all.
Sure. And you have a new record coming out. We've released a couple songs from it. I'm curious to know, where were you when the pandemic happened and how far along were you with this record?
So my new record is called Mirrors to the Sun, and it comes out in a few weeks on July 23rd. I actually don't know when this will air. Maybe it'll be after. But,
we'll probably, somewhere around that time, I'm sure we'll put it out.
Well, it's coming out July 23rd.
That's not my area of this, but
it's not my area either. But so Mirrors to the Sun, it was actually already finished before everything kind of went into lockdown. It just the pandemic kind of threw us for a loop, just because we were kind of looking for a home for the record, and ended up just kind of sitting on it for a while, and Spirit House said that they wanted to put it out, and so it was like a late bloomer. It was finished for a while, but it took us a few months to kind of get all the logistics sorted through, but it feels really nice, and I'm happy that a lot of the songs still feel really relevant to the times. I was kind of like wondering what it would be like to, I feel like a lot of people's perspectives have shifted on what life and the world and things mean right now. But I guess the truth is that we're still dealing with a lot of the same problems and a lot of the same emotions pre and post pandemic. So
right,
we are.
Exactly. I mean, the pandemic, we've been in it for what, a year and a half now. So it's not even a thing in the rear view mirror yet. I mean, we're still in the midst of it all.
Totally. I guess that my feelings around it have at least lightened up. I mean, those first few months were pretty terrifying.
I mean, how it was something. I talked to somebody the other day. They were saying like, it was like, this doesn't happen here. This is something that other countries or other places across the world, they run into this problem, and it's like, no, this is a worldwide
Mm-hmm.
thing, which is
Yeah.
just hard to
We're
even wrap your head around.
we were actually on our way to tour Japan, and we had stopped through Hawaii to see some friends and family, and we were getting word that everyone was kind of from New York was like, "Are you sure you're going to go to Japan? Like maybe it's going to get crazy over there. Will you get back into the country?" And so we were really like stressing out about like, what do we cancel our tour that we had spent months, booking and
Mm-hmm.
planning, and of course we ended up having to come back this way, but we landed back in New York like the day before it went into lockdown.
Oh,
So
wow. So you decided to pull the plug on it before everything, which
yeah.
is probably smart. I mean, wow. Imagine if you were there.
Yeah, it just felt like it was just too much going on. But, to what you were just saying, like, I feel like a lot of people were like, yeah, it's like in Asia or like whatever. And like,
Yeah.
are you sure you can be safe? And then I'm like, we live in New York City. Like, what's not going to come through New York City?
Right. And sure enough, that was like the epicenter of it all. I mean,
Yeah.
through the first months and months, it was always
Yeah.
New York was on TV the whole time.
I know. It was crazy.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that must have been really, really scary there.
Yeah, we were actually we have a family, John's family has a place in Vermont, so we were mostly kind of hidden away up there
That's
for the brunt of that intense period.
that's good.
But yeah.
Good that had a space to a go to, so to
Yes.
speak. Leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always
Wow.
joked that if the pandemic hit, we would we would go up to that house.
Sure enough, it hit. Oh wow. I know. What a wild time.
Such a
Well,
wild
so
time.
the record was done prior to
Mhm.
all this. You had to kind of hold it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what do you do during the course? Were you writing songs? I'm sure you probably
Yeah.
continued.
Yeah, I was writing songs. I was able to do some school, kind of like studying that I hadn't really ever had time for. So there was like a weird kind of hidden gift of time and, space in my life to do some other things.
Mhm.
But yeah, I wrote a bunch of songs. I recorded a bunch of songs last year as well. But they're not ready yet for the world.
Sure.
They're
And
still
this one's coming
under
out.
my wings. Yeah, that's right.
Right, right. The most recent one is Hummingbird, the most recent song you've put out?
We released a song called Howl in
Oh,
June,
okay. Hummingbird is
and
the video though with the kaleidoscopes.
that's the Kaleidoscope video. My friend Carter Lou McElroy did the like cut and paste collage
It's crazy. It's cool
animation stuff.
looking.
Yeah, it's really fun. Howl has a music video as well. That's kind of more of a traditional, like filmed,
Mhm.
style. And then I have another video coming out this month, the week of the record release, for a song called "Heat Keeps Rising."
Cool. And is that going to be a more traditional video or is it going to be another animated like multimedia style?
It's gonna be filmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you also have a live performance or live stream coming up, right, in August?
I do. Yeah, it's pre-recorded, but it's a live show that will be streaming on August 19th, I believe. Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
With Half Wave, which is really awesome. I love her music.
Have you had a chance to play at all yet, as far as like in front of live human beings?
I haven't. No. I
Okay.
haven't really been prioritizing it at the moment. I'd really
Mhm.
love to be doing some more as this kind of album release cycle wraps up. But TBD on some dates. I have some things I'd like to do in the city when the time comes.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. And I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. I really like the songs that you have out so far. And
Thanks.
I appreciate you doing this interview today. Thank you. Of
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me again.
course. I do have one more question before I let you leave.
Mhm.
Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
I have so much. Like things that
That's good. That's a
I feel
good
like
thing.
things that I would tell myself, like looking back. But I think the most important thing that I would say is just treat everything as an experiment. Never stop learning, because like even if you feel like, oh, I'm going in a million different directions, like who am I? What is my sound? Or whatever these questions are that, for me, that's what I'm constantly like looking for, is like, how can I make this feel like myself? And to really listen to like what's trying to come forward from your own voice and your own story. But the truth is that like, there's so many different sides to you, and it's really important to just kind of honor whatever wants to get sung or get written or be performed or whatever it is. And eventually like all of your experiments will kind of help you shape a vision of yourself and who you are and what you